Hello students, Standard 8 revision of the chapter number 5 in chemistry, coal and petroleum. We know that fossil fuels like coal and petroleum and natural gas are there, and these fossil fuels are very important in our lives. In last session we learned about one of the fossil fuel, coal, that how coal is formed. It takes millions of years. Now today we are going to learn about the another most important fossil fuels, which is petroleum. Petroleum word is derived from the Greek two words like petro and oleum. In Greek language, petro means the rocks and oleum means oil. So we know that generally oil or the petroleum is obtained by drilling the rocks. So it is the oil which is obtained from the rock. Therefore, the name came in existence, that petroleum. Petro plus oleum means the oil obtained from the rocks. So now this petroleum is very useful as it contains so many important products like petrol and diesel and so on. It is very dark in color and oily liquid, maybe smelling also bad. Generally, how the petroleum was formed, that we are going to learn now. That as we saw in the coal, that coal was formed when the big trees were buried due to some natural activities like flood and so on, and then the layer of soil was deposited on it and it was under high pressure and high temperature. Due to the process of carbonization, it converted into coal. Now there is a petroleum. Petroleum is generally formed from the living organisms in the sea. Now when the organisms which staying in the sea, when they died, what happened? They settled at the bottom of the sea, and then it got covered with the different layers of soil and dust and other clay and so on. Now, over the million of years, in the absence of air, high pressure and high temperature, the dead organisms transformed into petroleum and natural gas. So the petroleum is formed from the sea organisms, means it can be the plants also and the aquatic animals also. So when they died, they were gathering down, settled down at the bottom, and then on it the clay and sand deposited and made so many layers, so it is going deeper and deeper and deeper. There is no air there, very high temperature and high pressure. So they converted before the millions of years ago into the petroleum along with the natural gas. Sometimes petroleum and natural gas together, or sometimes only gas is obtained. So most of the time they both together are obtained by drilling in the earth crust. Now here you can see the picture. Right? So here, from here you can drill it, then you get the deposit of the oil and natural gas. But observe that always it is obtained before the water rocks. Means water is available, because generally we know that oil is lighter than the water, and therefore it does not get mixed also in it, and therefore always the layer of petroleum is up, and under that always there will be the water layer will be there, as I showed you in the picture. So thus here we saw that it is formed from the dead sea organisms under high pressure and high temperature and absence of the air. Now the world's first well, oil well, was drilled in USA at the place Pennsylvania in the year 1859. So that was the first oil well that was drilled in the America. The name of the place is Pennsylvania, and it was drilled in the year 1850. And then just after the 8 years, in 1887, in 1867, it was 1867, not 87. So after just 8 years, in 1867, in India also a oil well was drilled, and it was at the place named Makum, situated in the Assam. So the first in the world is at Pennsylvania in USA, which was in 1859, and in India it was at Makum in Assam just after the 8 years in the year 1867. So you have to remember those things, maybe asked in the small questions. Now as we saw that the petroleum is like that thing we saw. Now refining of a petroleum. What is the meaning of refining? We know that this petroleum is a mixture of so many constituents in it, and all these constituents are very, very useful products, and therefore we have to separate them. So the process of separating the constituents of petroleum is called refining of the petroleum. So there is a process, and that process we use to separate all the constituents of it, like petrol and diesel and so many others. So that process is known as a refining of the petroleum, and that is done at a space which is known as petroleum refineries. The nearest petroleum refinery is nearby Ankleshwar in our Gujarat also. So now in the refinery, the distill is done. It means that fractional distillation is done, in which there is a complex tower is made, fractional distillation tower. That about it you will learn in the higher standard, in which the petroleum is entered at a very high temperature. So what happens? Most of the petroleum will turn into gas form, and when gas goes up, it cools down, and at the different levels it turns back into liquid at a different temperature zone, and at different place there is a place in which from which they can take out the useful products, and that is known as fractional distillation tower. Fractional because their boiling points are different, and therefore at a different fraction of the temperature these different products are getting separated. So that is done at the petroleum refinery. Now in the refinery the different substances are like they are petroleum gas, which we call LPG, liquefied petroleum gas. You know about the LPG, that is we use at home as a fuel, which is in the cylinder, and also it is used in so many industries as a fuel. The second, another important constituent of the petroleum is petrol. Petrol is used as a fuel in the motors, in the aviations, and it is used as a solvent for dry cleaning. When you give your very valuable clothes for dry cleaning, in dry cleaning they use the petrol, because some of the dirt can get dissolved in petrol only. It will not dissolve in water, so we cannot wash that with the water. So they are using petrol as a solvent, so that can dissolve that dirt, and that is known as dry cleaning. So in dry cleaning also the petrol is used. The another important product obtained from the petroleum is the kerosene. Kerosene nowadays it is less used, but in the few years ago it was used as a fuel in the stove for the cooking, and lamps, and for jet airplane. Jet aircrafts are using the very clean kerosene as a fuel. So that kerosene oil is also a very important product obtained from the petroleum. Then the next is the diesel. Diesel, we know that it is used in the automobiles like big trucks and cars, heavy motor vehicles, and it is also used in the electric generators to produce the electricity. So that is the another important product. Then the next product is the lubricating oil. We know that to minimize the friction we use that oil, like in the machines where the rotating parts are there, we have to lubricate it regularly. So that lubricating oil is also one of the constituent of the petroleum, which is obtained by the refinery. Then the another one is the paraffin wax. Paraffin wax is useful in the ointments to make the candles, wax, Vaseline, etc. So you see that creamy substance in the ointments, that using this paraffin wax to make it smoother. So the paraffin wax is used, also it is used to make the Vaseline that we use for the dry skin, and also the other lubricants like the grease, in that also this paraffin wax and the candle are also made from the wax that is known as paraffin wax. Another one is the bitumen. Bitumen is used in the paints and road surfacing. You know that damar apne kahiye ne. So that road surfacing is also done with the use of this bitumen. So we see that there are lots of along about this. After this also there are so many other useful components are there in the petroleum that you will learn in higher standards. That not only those products but so many other constituents products are also available from the petroleum, which are known as petroleum products. They are known as petrochemicals also. So that petrochemicals are very, very useful. And we saw that, what did we saw that from the petroleum there are so many useful substances like petrol, diesel, kerosene, bitumen and paraffin wax, etc. are obtained. And all of these constituents are very, very useful. They have a very, very useful commercial uses also. And therefore, they have a very, very commercial importance. So due to its great commercial importance of the petroleum, petroleum is also known as black gold. So you have to prepare a question like that, why petroleum is known as black gold. So you have to write down about it, that what are the components of it, what are the usefulness of it, and so on. So that because of this great use or the commercial importance, that petroleum is known as a black gold also. So here we finish about the petroleum of fossil fuel. Now some more important is the natural gas, about which we will learn in the next session. It will followed by the PDF file, and any confusion write down in the comment section. Thank you very much.